lot of nuts!
Philosophy. Philosophy. What is philosophy? Is it philosophic to even question what is a meme? If you think about it. Very often people ask me what I do for work, and most times I tell them I'm unemployed because that's honestly the truth if you get down to the details of it. But when I do get around to telling people that I am a YouTuber, they will inevitably ask, a YouTuber? What kind of YouTuber are you? And I need to tell them that I am somebody who delves into internet culture, pop culture, society as it is online, and most notably, memes. And when they hear the word meme, they have this reductionist interpretation of what a meme is. They go, oh, you cover memes on your YouTube channel? Do you just stick together a bunch of funny TikToks and then use an AI voice over it? Are you like the Instagram pages I follow? I'm gonna watch your videos because I love memes, and I realize I'm not doing a very good job at describing what I do here. You see, I don't like looking at memes because I like compiling together a bunch of funny pictures and then playing them for you as an audience. I do a little too much talking to be considered a meme channel. In reality, I like taking a look at memes as it is, the inside jokes that people make on the internet as a window into different aspects of online internet culture. When I see a meme that comes from a popular movie or TV show or video game, I like to try to interpret what people's feelings about that movie, book, TV show, or video game is through the memes that they're making. Some of the best TV shows and movies that I've ever watched, Parasite, Game of Thrones, Evangelion, Naruto, whatever, have all been because I've seen some funny memes to come out of them first and then decided to watch the media afterwards. This appreciation for memes has led me into a little bit of postmodern philosophy. Philosophy that is both after and primarily focused on internet culture and the values and the memes of which people make on the internet. Philosophy is derived from the ancient Greek word philosophia, which literally means the love of wisdom. And when you take that wisdom to be interpreted as a knowledge of internet culture, society as it behaves when online, then you get a very unique form of philosophy that is truly just the pursuit and appreciation of wisdom as it were to apply to understanding more memes. I do not consider myself a philosopher because I am smart or because I like thinking or even that I think of myself as very wise. It is simply because in the pursuit of being able to appreciate the dankest, the absolute most secluded, nuanced memes on the internet, I must grow my understanding of the internet. For the day that I bump into a meme that I both do not understand and cannot comprehend will be the day of my death. Now that being said, there is a bunch of traditional philosophy that has leaked its way into modern meme culture. Sisyphus, Schrodinger's cat, the prisoner's dilemma, the trolley problem, these are all aspects of philosophy, as it were, in a way to try to get you to think about life, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language in a way that is very true to philosophy. And yet I feel like these things are memed by idiots that do not understand the base principle of these philosophical concepts to begin with, and now I am driven to make this video explaining to you philosophical concepts that I only somewhat understand better than you because I took the time to Google a few of these. I hope you enjoy. Before we get into some more philosophy hyenas, I gotta tell you about today's video sponsor, Into the AM, everybody's favorite clothing company. You guys should know them pretty well at this point as they've been sponsoring my channel, and I've been wearing their t-shirts in these videos for the better part of like 3 years at this point. That's crazy. What's even crazier is they're currently doing a promotion. It is Black Friday in July, ladies and gentlemen. You know what that means? Great savings, excellent deals on some of the best clothing that you'll find all across the web. Right now, Into the AM is promoting the multi-packs of their basic tees. You don't have to get anything as extravagant as what you see me wearing. Most people aren't as bright and colorful as I am. No, what you need is just some basic, staple, plain t-shirts to fill out your closet, and that means buying more than one. And right now, if you buy a 3-pack, a 6-pack, or a 9-pack of tees from Into the AM, you are going to get some great savings, and simultaneously you'll be able to fill out your entire closet with lightweight, breathable, high quality t-shirts. I've been wearing this shirt for like 3 years. It's got a big design on the back of it. like 2 years I've had this shirt. This has probably been through the wash like 30 times. It has not faded or fallen apart even a little bit. These shirts are great. Right now you can get a 3-pack of shirts for $47, and these you can mix and match. You can choose what colors you want. You can choose what sizes you want. You can even get them without any of the Into the AM logo. If you just want plain t-shirts to wear under stuff, or because you're just a muted kind of guy, that's available. You can get 9 shirts. You save almost $160. This ends up at less than $12 a shirt. Everybody needs clothes, and this is a great time to save a ton of money on having a bunch of different colors and styles. You can mix and match them with the graphic tees if you want to, and get a bundle of like some bright ones, some muted ones, earth tones, graphic tees if you want to. And listen, you don't need to pretend like I'm pretending to like these things. You've been watching me wear these things damn near every day for the last 3 years. I basically don't even wear anything else because my entire closet is just Into the AM stuff. Yours should be too. Not only do you save money and have great stuff to wear, but you'll be supporting my channel at the same time. Link is down in the description. Get yourself any of the multi-packs, save a ton of money, and thank you, Into the AM. First up is the story of Sisyphus. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus was originally a king, a very cunning king, who particularly spent his time outsmarting the gods of the time in one way or another. In fact, when he was faced by Thanatos, the god of death, he out-tricked him even, chaining him to something and then basically making it so nobody on Earth died at any point. At some point, he did inevitably end up in Tartarus, where he convinced Persephone to let him leave the underworld so that he could bitch at his wife for not giving him a good enough funeral, and then, as if that wasn't ridiculous enough, decided he wasn't going to return to the underworld and would just go on to live a second life. At some point, Zeus got fed up with his antics and decided, fine, if you're not going to die, you will live forever in a way that I can torture you, and thus became Sisyphus's boulder. The philosophical concept goes as such. Sisyphus has been doomed, cursed, by the gods to push a boulder up a very tall hill. And once he reaches nearly the top of the hill, inevitably, every single time, the boulder will slip from his grasp, roll back down, leading to Sisyphus having to endlessly push this boulder until the end of time, as this dude refuses to die. Now, Sisyphus is interpreted by a lot of people to be the embodiment of human struggle. What is the point of doing anything if at the end of the day we just go to sleep, to wake up and do it all over again, seemingly meaninglessly? Why does Sisyphus continue to push this boulder up the hill when after 5 or 6 times he probably realizes that there is a curse that is preventing him from ever achieving his goal? This dude is pushing a boulder up a hill until the end of time due to nothing other than his own hubris and inability to accept that his life has come to an end. This perfectly encapsulates human suffering, does it not? And as such, people relate Sisyphus to any mundane task. Doing the dishes? Man, I feel like Sisyphus pushing a boulder. Every time I do the dishes, there's more dishes to do. I just gotta make it till Friday, he says. As Friday comes, the weekend disappears, and now he's back at Monday before even realizing it. Back at work, pushing the same boulder that he always has. Sisyphus' struggle is clearly a philosophical concept to let you know that life sucks and there's nothing that you can do about it. Right? No. Of course not. You do not need the symbolism of a guy pushing a boulder up a hill only to never have it reach the top of the hill and explain his old backstory of tricking the gods and to tell you that life is meaningless. The story of Sisyphus is to imply that life is only going to have the meaning of which you give it. In 1942, philosopher Albert Camus talked about this story of Sisyphus and wrote that most people take a look at this story and try to see the human struggle, the meaninglessness in life, and specifically speaks to, if life has no inherent meaning, then how is it that people don't just give up? And he speaks to 2 ways in which most people do give up when faced with a cold, unrelenting lack of meaning in a boulder that will never reach the top of a hill. Albert Camus says that people reach to 2 different types of game ending. 1, physical game ending, that is, ending your own life because you see no purpose in it. Or 2, a philosophical game ending, that is, taking up religion, dogmas, or some level of blind optimism in order to try to make yourself tricked into believing there is a greater purpose to life, when in reality, it seems as though there might not really be one, just to trick yourself enough to be able to live for 80 or 90 years without offing yourself. But in explaining those two dogmas, he also provides a third level of understanding to Sisyphus' story, which is to embrace the absurd being the lack of meaning in life. Albert Camus states that Sisyphus' mere action of continuing to push the boulder up the hill is in and of itself a point of meaning to be given to his life. Though from the outside it may seem meaningless, there is no goal to be achieved, he's never going to push the boulder up the hill, and Sisyphus is not tricking himself into believing that by pushing the boulder up the hill, one day it will reach the top through blind optimism, or he's doing some sort of greater cosmic purpose through religion or being the symbol of suffering. Rather, he's kind of just doing it out of spite. By choosing to continue to push the boulder up the hill and not give up, he is robbing the gods of the punishment of which they set for him. He could stop, he could decide not to, he could finally decide to embrace the death that he has been trying to escape for so long, and yet the mere fact that he continues to rebel against the gods and continues to push up this rock seemingly meaninglessly gives his life the meaning that he seemed to have been punished with lacking to begin with. And this is spoken by Albert Camus's final line in his story about Sisyphus, which I feel like most people leave out. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. And that is the most important concept, because if you imagine Sisyphus suffering, then the gods have done their job and there is no more to the story. But if one must imagine that Sisyphus is happy, that he finds glory, pride, joy in continuing to pick up this boulder and push it up the hill every time, well, then this gives a completely different meaning to this story. It is not the helplessness or lack of meaning in life that humans strive for. Rather, it is humans that need to find something to strive for, a meaning in their own life, defiant of how meaningless it may seem. Realistically speaking, does this change anything about the fact that Sisyphus needs to push this boulder up a hill for eternity? No. But with that little shift of your mentality, a completely different outlook on life, the exact same action now has a wildly different interpretation. And I would argue that the best meme to represent Sisyphus pushing this boulder up the hill for eternity with this newfound understanding that I've given you is not so much a guy pushing a boulder up endlessly. It's not the dude who's in the middle of a snake claiming that doing the dishes or going to work on Friday feels like being Sisyphus pushing up a boulder. Pushing a boulder as Sisyphus is to give your own life meaning despite it feeling like all you're doing is pushing a boulder up a hill. I would argue the better meme to represent Sisyphus' struggle is the two guys on a bus. The bus is going to end up wherever it ends up regardless. The goal is set, the route, the journey is already there for you. But whether you sit on the side of the bus facing nothing to look at, or the side of the bus that gives you a level of optimism to be excited that you're simply on this bus, able to view this view, regardless of if the bus is ever going to stop, that's the story of Sisyphus. On one side, I have to do the dishes. I have to go to work. I have to take a shower. I have to push a boulder up a hill for the rest of my life. On the other side, I get to do the dishes. I get to go to work tomorrow. I get to take a shower. I am filled with hope and joy because I know there will be a tomorrow, that I will continue to live because I get to push this boulder for eternity. Why? Because one must envision Sisyphus happy. Sisyphus could have died. He could have just lived in the underworld, suffering for eternity all the same. But instead, he chooses to suffer for eternity in a completely different way, in a way that does nothing other than gives him a life. The life may not be any different than suffering in the underworld for the rest of eternity, but when faced with the opportunity to become nothing or to become something, and that something being almost basically the same as nothing, Sisyphus still chooses something. Because that's what life is. It's something. Much the same like the end of Evangelion, Shinji, our main character, is met with the opportunity to accept the Instrumentality Project, one where all of humanity will be combined into some sort of orange soup called the LCL. They will feel no pain, they will have no issues, no conflicts, they will all be one and embrace in love. And yet Shinji decides to reject this, despite the fact that his entire life has been neglect, suffering, and never really feeling any sort of real human connection that doesn't end up biting him in the ass. He chooses that pain and suffering because alongside with it, it comes individuality. He chooses a life that will have nothing that he hopes for. Pain, suffering, and conflict with everybody that he's ever met over the idea of losing that individuality, even though it supposedly promises him all those same connections that he's been lacking. Is Shinji Sisyphus? You're a dweeb if you make this argument, by the way. Yeah, I guess Shinji is Sisyphus. I guess everything in life relates back to Evangelion, and that's why I can't shut up about it. And now I'm gonna get another dozen DMs in my Twitter inbox from people saying that they watched the movie because of me and it ruined their life. And yet I continue onwards. Why? Because one must imagine Sumito happy. The Ship of Theseus. One of my favorites. The premise is relatively straightforward. Imagine you have a boat, and then piece by piece, over the course of like years, you replace the bow, you replace the stern, you replace the mast, you replace the sails, the motors, the oars, until none of the original pieces of the Ship of Theseus are still a part of this now new ship. Is that still the Ship of Theseus? Obviously, when you replace one piece, it's not a completely new ship, but what happens when you've replaced 49% of it? What happens when you've replaced 99% of it? Some would imagine that the Ship of Theseus is the crew, the people sailing it. If you're still calling it the Ship of Theseus, then surely it still is such. However, what if every one of those pieces that was removed, rather than over the course of years, was done instantaneously? You just took apart the ship, built a new ship, and then the old ship, which is now a different ship, is the one you call the Ship of Theseus. What happens if you take 100% of the pieces of the original Ship of Theseus and make a second ship? Now which one's the Ship of Theseus? This thought experiment is really just a matter of like the human self. What are you? Are you the consciousness that has the ideas, the memories, and experiences of what you are? Or are you the body that has gone through those experiences? If I swap your brain with some hot goth girl at Hooters, are you now the hot goth girl at Hooters, or is she you because her brain is in your body? This one doesn't have any sort of complicated misunderstandings or really any philosophy to it. It's more of a thought experiment than anything. But I think this is very interesting in the modern internet, where it feels like some YouTube channels, meme accounts, personalities even, have been around for so long that they've undergone a bit of a Ship of Theseus themselves. Take, for example, The Game Theorist, hosted by MatPat. This guy's been making YouTube videos since the early days of YouTube and is one of the most popular creators to do it, but he no longer is a part of The Game Theorist. He's no longer the guy saying, but that's just a theory. He's off doing other shit. So is MatPat the guy who's now like running for political alignment with YouTubers and whatnot? Is that The Game Theorist? Or is the YouTube channel that's now presumably being hosted by someone completely different, completely detached from MatPat, is that The Game Theorist? Another example is PewDiePie. If you ask somebody who PewDiePie is, depending on the decade of content creation they're thinking about, PewDiePie is either somebody who plays horror games and screams really loudly, reviews memes and talks about internet drama, or vlogs himself in Japan, basically retired at this point. If somebody were to make a new YouTube channel and call it LARP PewDiePie, doing all of the things that PewDiePie used to do, would that now become the new PewDiePie channel? Much the same as PewDiePie is now basically making videos with none of the original things that most people might know him for, between memes and playing video games. The guy's effectively a vlogger now. Does the simple fact that he continues to upload to the PewDiePie channel mean that he is PewDiePie? Obviously, these seem a little bit silly, but I do think it's important to pay attention to the authenticity of which is required to be called whatever your personal brand is. Very famously, back in the day, Ian and Anthony from Smosh sold their YouTube channel. And so that conglomerate, corporation, whatever, continued to make a Smosh, while Anthony and Ian continued to make their own YouTube stuff on separate channels. Clearly, Smosh is the Smosh guys, even if they're not making Smosh stuff anymore. And Smosh, the channel, is now the original Ship of Theseus, stripped of all of the things that made it so. And it's now something completely different, just continuing to use the name of the Smosh of Theseus. However, over the course of time, through Good Mythical Mornings Boys, they were able to purchase back the Smosh YouTube channel. It's like if you took apart all the parts of the Ship of Theseus, but then bought them back on the flea market and then duct taped them to a new ship that you'd be calling the Ship of Theseus 2? What is now the original? In fact, there's only one channel that you can now call Smosh, and a sort of convergence of ships. A shipwreck, if I would. I find the Ship of Theseus to be interesting when you take a look at it this way when it comes to YouTube channels, because there is very clearly a point when it comes to content creation that somebody has deviated enough from their audience that they become a completely separate thing. If it's slow and gradual over time, much like meticulously and slowly replacing the pieces of a ship, you can go from somebody like PewDiePie, who's uploading whatever vlogs, and turn into a horror gaming channel, a internet drama channel, a news channel, somebody who is vlogging himself building his own AI constructs and what have you in Japan, and that still has the same identity of that content creator. All the same, if a creator is to continue to make the exact same content they always have, much like Veritasium or Donut Media or one of these guys, but the authenticity gets stripped away because they've sold out to private equity or they're doing too many sponsorships or whatever, their idea of what the Ship of Theseus is, their own being, can be completely stripped of any of its authenticity and value simply because of the way that it's perceived by the audience. If Veritasium did nothing different but continued to make the high-quality math, science, and physics-based videos that he did, but never took a bunch of money from private equity in order to improve the content, would he have more authenticity? Would people not give him backlash and say that he's changed, removed his bow and stern, become a different Ship of Theseus, if he just continued to stay the course? The thought experiment of the Ship of Theseus is supposed to be one that makes you think of what it means to be. What are you? Are you the physical embodiment of who you are, or are you the thoughts, memories, and experiences that make up how you perceive the world, and in a way, how people perceive you? How differently do people need to perceive you before you cease to become what you thought you are? Would you rather be the guy who sucked 100 dicks but nobody knows, or would you rather be the guy who's never sucked a dick but everybody thinks you've sucked 100 dicks? Reality is perception. And so would you rather be the YouTuber that never sold out, but then quietly fizzled into obscurity as the algorithm changes? Or would you rather be the guy who continues to get a bunch of views, money, and popularity as you've always wanted, but now people see you as something different than what you originally thought you were? One must imagine Sumito happy. I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually know how much of this actually qualifies as philosophy and how much of this is just a stupid fat YouTuber's idea of what philosophy is, but nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you want to see more of them come out in the future, please remember to subscribe. A like on this video goes a long way, and remember, click the link in the description to get yourself some multi-packs from Into the AM. Thank you so much again for sponsoring. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Spisu.